In this video, we're going to show a dissection of the eye. So this is a chip eye, and once we start dissecting the chip eye, we will see the structures. Now, externally, something that you can see right away is the cornea, which is this part, and then this membrane, or well, this layer of the wall of the eyeball, which is the sclera. The sclera is the most external layer of the eye, and it is very tough. It is white in color, and it surrounds this epithelium that is called the cornea. Now, in this eyeball, we are going to do a coronal or frontal section that follows basically the alignment of the cornea, because we can do also a mid-sagittal section, but it is as shown in the instructions for the lab manual that it is done in this way. So I'm going to hold the outer tissue of the eye, which is basically fat. Our eyes are regularly covered externally by fat, since it's an important organ. So I'm going to hold it with the tweezers, and then I'm going to do this sagittal section with the scalpel. And frontal section. It's kind of slippery, and you just have to be careful when you're doing it, because if you try to hold it with your fingers, the eyeball, as you're cutting with the scalpel, you might have an accident and cut yourself. Now, so I'm still having trouble. One thing about it, it is that the sclera itself is very tough. So that's one meaning of sclera, means tough. Like when you have a sclerosis of an organ, that means that your organ is getting thick or tough. So what I'm going to do is put it here in one corner of this dissecting tray to penetrate the sclera, which is very tough. So I already did this section, as you can see, and you probably have noticed that some of the fluid from the eye escaped. So the eye has two cavities. It has the anterior cavity, which is in between the iris and the cornea, and then we have the posterior cavity, which is in between the iris and the retina. And then within this posterior cavity, we have a fluid that it is called the vitreous humor. And this vitreous humor is a jelly-like fluid. So that's the one part of it, like the one that it falls out from the eye when I was doing this section. And then in the anterior cavity, we have a fluid that it is a little bit less dense, that is called the aqueous humor. So I'm going to continue my section towards the entire circumference of the eyeball, so we can see the internal structures. So I'm going to keep holding it against the corner of the tray while I'm doing the section. Like I said, it's much easier when you're holding it with your fingers, but it is not advisable. The last thing that you want to do is cut yourself, especially with the scalpels, because these instruments are very, very sharp. Okay, so I did this section, and so this part that you can see here, I'm supposed to have another set of tweezers, but this part that you see here is part of the lens, the suspensory ligaments that hold the lenses. And this is the lens. So within this part, the anterior part of the eye, which is this. You can tell because this is the cornea. We have the iris, which is the color part of the eye, this. And then in the middle of the iris we have the pupil. The iris is made of a couple of muscles, smooth muscle, that either constrict the circular muscle to close our pupil in what we call meiosis, or we have some fibers of muscle, smooth muscle, that are called the radial muscles, that when they contract, they help in the opening of the pupil or dilation. This is called mydriasis. So when the light in a room is very bright, you will constrict your circular muscles of the pupil so that you can have less light going into the retina, preventing damage to the photoreceptors. And when the light is dim, you want to have as much light going into your retina so you can have better vision, and then you don't trip over objects. So you will contract these radial muscles, so you produce mydriasis, so you can bring the eye, the light into the retina. So this is then the iris, this is the pupil, this is the cornea, this is the sclera, and outside of the cornea, which is made out of simple squamous epithelium, we have a membrane that's called the conjunctiva. Now the conjunctiva that covers the sclera is called bulbar conjunctiva, and then the conjunctiva that covers the inner part of our eyelids is called the palpebral conjunctiva. Now this cornea, together with the lens, which is a biconcave structure, that it is located in here, that it is held by these suspensory ligaments, which are these. So this lens, together with the cornea, helps to focus the light into the posterior region of our eye in the internal layer, which is the retina. And you see these colors on the retina? So these shiny colors are coming from the pigments that are found in the pigmented retina, which are the pigments that are stored within the photoreceptors and the rods within the retina. So the retina is a very thin membrane, is the most internal layer of the eye, that it is located internally to the second layer of the eye, which is called the choroid. The choroid or uvea is where the blood vessels are located, so to provide blood supply to the different regions of the eye. So you can detach this membrane. This is the retina, and then you can see this choroid, which is this membrane, and then this white part, this white layer, will be the sclera, and this will be part of the aqueous humor, the vitreous humor, the humor that it is found in the posterior cavity of the eye, and this will be the suspensory ligaments of the lens. So the lens is held into its central place, placed by these suspensory ligaments into a structure on the sides that is called the ciliary body. And when this ciliary body muscles contract, it changes the shape of the lens, so you can focus the light exactly into the retina, where we have the photoreceptors that help us to detect the light and of course the objects that surrounds us. So this is all for this video, and I will see you in the next.